everybody, and welcome back to the Nightstand afternoon show. And we've got some big news coming in about Sir Jim and INEOS completely changing the transfer strategy, a transfer overhaul and some transfer targets revealed for INEOS going in the summer, as it doesn't seem to matter who the manager's going to be, as they're going to have very little say on signings, how Sir Jim plans to save money on signings, the British core that Dan Ashworth and Sir Jim Ratcliffe feel like is best for Manchester United, obsessed with getting British players in. That is the direction we're going to go down. Is that the right direction that Manchester United should go down? And obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about Branthwaite. I know Mark spoke about it on the morning show, Slow Spot News, about Sky Sports reporting on Branthwaite, but I've actually got a really interesting take on Branthwaite, and it's something for me, I'm like, it is looking like we're only going to get one centre-back when we thought we were going to get two. If we're going to get one centre-back, Branthwaite's a left-sided centre-back, and we have Lisandro Martinez. One, we're not paying 55, 60 million for a backup left-sided centre-back. We're paying for a first-teamer. Two, is the plan actually to keep Ten Hag then? Because Lisandro Martinez is his first choice left-sided centre-back. Branthwaite, I think, is a top player. I know he can play on both sides, but why are we prioritising a left-sided centre-back if we're only getting one centre-back in? That is something that I've been thinking about over the course of the last probably couple of hours, really, when I've been thinking about how Branthwaite might be our only centre-back signing. But really interesting article coming out about the transfer targets for Manchester United and how we're going to approach the transfer windows. We've already been told it's going to be much different, but there's a few things here where I'm like, yes, we absolutely do need to do that. But then there's also a few things that are popping up in the article to me that's like, well, that doesn't seem as ambitious as I'd like it to be. And also, I don't really agree with the fact that we're prioritising British players. I understand Premier League. I understand Premier League experience, but why does it matter where the players are from? The quota, I know you've got to reach that, but there's been plenty of Premier League players that have been absolutely exceptional that haven't been British. And there's also been plenty of Premier League failures that have been British. So get in the comments down below what you think. Get your comments in. Going to be reading through the chat, interacting with you guys, and welcome to the show. I've already seen some comments coming in saying Brexit FC. M Chuck says, hi Beth, United need to learn to pull the trigger on up-and-coming players before they go to places like Brighton and get sold. A lot of people talking about Brexit FC in the chat. I mean, it does feel a little bit like that when we're heading towards the British core. And look, there's some brilliant British players. Declan Rice was one. He's a brilliant British player. Harry Kane is amazing. Jude Bellingham, Phil Foden. I mean, Kobbie Mainoo, who's coming through. I mean, there's some brilliant British players. Do not get me wrong. England have a great squad going into the Euros. They absolutely do. But English players tend to be more expensive, to be honest with you. You've got the British tax. And if you shop, I understand wanting to shop for Premier League experience. I get that. Mikel Arteta's done it. It's worked wonders for him. He loves a Premier League signing, Mikel Arteta, and his signings have honestly been very, very good when you look at the grand scheme of things of him signing from the Premier League. I get why you'd want Premier League players, but I don't understand why it has to be British. We have missed out on some really good British players over the years. Declan Rice is one that we should have gone for last summer. I stand by that. Harry Kane's another one that we could have gone for. But you can integrate them as well with foreign players too. And foreign players you can actually get on a really good deal compared to the British ones as well. So I think it's important that, you know, we're not just like, we're only signing you if you've got an English passport. We're only signing you if you've got a British passport. We need to kind of be looking across all different platforms, across all different leagues as well. And hopefully that is something that we will be doing. South American League, a lot of you always speak about. It's definitely something that I think Manchester United need to explore more often. You know, the Julian Alvarez's of this world. And, you know, Chelsea have started to do it. They've just made a signing from South America. I think it's from the Brazilian league. I can't remember exactly who the player is. But they've pulled the trigger really early on that. And that's a way a lot of clubs are going at the moment in football. So that's something that I thought, do you know what? I get it, the Premier League stuff, and we'll see how the British stuff develops. Dan Ashworth apparently is the one pushing that. We'll talk about that in a second. But the main thing that I wanted to bring up at the start of the show, and we're going to talk about transfer targets, everything like that. A couple of new ones have been revealed, and a couple of ones as well that we've been talking about on this channel for the last couple of months, and we've done shows about it, and people have said, you know, this is clickbait, we're not going for them players. Well, they're getting brought up again now in actually, you know, articles from a really good source. So we'll talk about that. But Richard Faye's put out an article, and this is the article we're going off, and it is that Manchester United's manager will have less influence over transfer decisions as part of the club's new strategy going forward. I mean, we've already spoken about that. We know that Sir Jim and INEOS are putting together a recruitment team to do the majority of the business. They're doing the model where they have a team that recruit and the manager is going to be given them players that the club feels is best suited to the current situation and the current squad. I mean, there was a little bit of talk coming out that Sir Jim wanted it to be a way in which the manager would identify what positions he wants, and then the recruitment team would come and give him like 3 different options, and then the manager would have some sort of say. I know a lot of people straight away are unsure about this, but the fact of the matter is, I actually think this is a better way to go than what we've been dealing with it in the past. I'm Erik ten Hag in. You know how much I want Erik ten Hag to stay. I've got a little bit of something to bring up on that in a second. But the fact of the matter is, let's be honest, he's made a rod for his own back in terms of the money he's spent on signings that haven't been successful. You know, Lisandro Martinez is really the only one that you can really say is a standout Erik ten Hag signing that's done really well. I mean, some of the signings that Ten Hag's have not worked out, and he has spent a decent amount of money, and he has had a lot of power in them transfers. I know people will say, yeah, he wanted Darwin Núñez. You know, well, I think Darwin Núñez is a good player, but he hasn't really worked out. I know people say he wanted Frenkie de Jong. We couldn't get Frenkie de Jong. I know a lot of people say that there was some panic buys in there as well, and there's a lot of free transfers, you know, and loans in terms of the Weghorst, the Sabitzer, you know, the Eriksson stuff. But Erik ten Hag has spent money, and his signings overall have not been greatly successful. They also wanted Cody Gakpo as well. He really wanted Cody Gakpo, which I think was a good job we didn't buy him. I don't think he's all that whatsoever. So Erik ten Hag, I do think, should have less power over transfers. And the manager that comes in, I also think should have less power over transfers, because you see clubs like Liverpool and Manchester City, 2 of the most successful clubs in England over the past 10 years, unfortunately for us, they also have this model. And I'm not saying the manager should have no say, because Pep definitely has a say at City and Klopp definitely had a say at Liverpool. He's leaving Liverpool now, obviously. But they have an absolutely top sporting director and team behind the scenes. And Pep said it all the time. He's come out this season and give credit to the transfer team and the sporting director for going getting him Akanji. Credit for going getting Doku. He's spoken about that. You know, Klopp wanted Brandt, didn't he, before he got Mo Salah, given to him by, well, not given to him, but recruited to him by the recruitment team. So clubs that have been really successful over the past decade have had a model where they have an excellent transfer team behind the scenes that are going recruiting targets and bringing them forward to the manager. So in an ideal world, this is how it would work. And I hope this is the way it goes. I obviously want Erik ten Hag to stay as the manager, so let's talk about it as if Erik ten Hag is still the manager. Erik ten Hag explains the way he wants to play football to Dan Ashworth, Jason Wilcox, Omar Barada, the team that is handling the recruitment, and that's mainly going to be led by Dan Ashworth with Jason Wilcox working underneath him. That's what we've been told. So Erik ten Hag explains his style of football, explains exactly the type of players he wants. I want a centre-back, I want a midfielder, I want a striker. I want a centre-back that's extremely good on the ball, is robust physically, you know, he's good in the air. Names the attributes basically that he wants from a centre-back. I want a holding midfielder that is really good in his duels, can get around the pitch really well. He's also good on the ball, playing the ball out from the back, etc, etc, etc. I'm just kind of off the top of my head listing off attributes. So Erik ten Hag's going to say, this is the way I want to play, these are the players I need. So then what I would have is the recruitment team then going away saying, these are the attributes we need, this is the type of profiles we need, let's find, like, you know, the top 5 targets for this sort of player. They come back to Erik ten Hag, they say, look, these are the targets we've got for you. It's centre-back, we've got Jared Branthwaite, you know, he's good on the ball, he's really promising, fits the young element that we kind of want in at the club. Also, he's great in the aerially as well, has that Premier League experience that you were after. Another option that we've got is Mark Gahey, also has that Premier League experience, is right-footed but predominantly plays left-sided centre-back. I know you said you wanted a left-footer, Eric, I know that's your style, but we really think Mark Gahey would be good because of this, this, this and that. Different option, you know, now we're looking at Todibo. Todibo's got this, Todibo's got that, Todibo's got that. And Erik ten Hag would say, look, these attributes of each player my personal preference, let's imagine it was a Branthwaite. My personal preference would be to go for Jared Branthwaite. I think he's the one we want. Then the recruitment team goes away, works on that and does that for Erik ten Hag. That is how I would like to see it. Then, you know, if Everton don't back down on the price, sorry, Eric, we're not willing to go to 75, 80 million for Jared Branthwaite. Who would be the next one in line that you'd want? And then you go, do you know what? I really fancy Todibo from Nice. That's the one I'd want. OK, we can do that. It's going to be 40 million. We've got the connections. We should be able to get that sorted. So that's the way I would want it to work. What I'm fearful of, and keep getting your comments in, I'm going to come to them in a second. What I'm fearful of is it's going to be a situation, because we've heard this news coming out, where apparently I've heard some news recently that Jason Wilcox is going to decide the style of play for Manchester United. What experience does I like Jason Wilcox, by the way. He said hi to my brother as my brother was leaving Wembley. Got a picture with him. He met him. Seems like a sound guy, but you know he's not a manager. He's not managed in the Premier League. Like, he's not got a style of football that he kind of, you know, lives by. So I think the manager should play the way he wants to play. Of course, it's got to be under the Manchester United DNA. And Ten Hag said that. He said that the team around him have said, you know, you want to play aggressive football on the front foot. We want to have possession. We want to have it entertaining. We want to play an attacking style of football where we are entertaining to watch. He's already said, you know, that INEOS have told him the way that they want to play. I get that. I understand having a baseline, but ultimately the manager should have the say on the way he wants to play football. Of course, you know, within reason. You know, if Erik ten Hag came in and was like, you know, I want to park the bus every week, you know, go and get me, you know, Everton's backline, and, well, Jared Branthwaite is from Everton, funnily enough, but, you know, I want to park the bus every week and we're just going to completely counter-attack every game, that obviously wouldn't be fit under the Manchester United style of play. But, you know, there's a difference between, you know, there's extremities where you can go with this. I don't think Ten Hag should come back in the summer if he is still manager and Jason Wilcox sits down with him and says, this is how you're going to be playing football from now on. I think what should happen is, this is Manchester United, this is the way we see the club developing. What can you do to kind of fit in with this? And Erik ten Hag, with his specific style of play and the way he wants to do it, says, this is what I want to do, this is how it's going to work, and these are the sort of players I need. So I feel like basically what I'm trying to say is, I don't want it to be all or nothing. It shouldn't be Erik ten Hag's deciding everything. He's deciding all his transfers and, you know, he's just completely got free reign of everything. It shouldn't be that. But it also shouldn't be the recruitment team decide exactly what players are coming in, exactly what players are going, and, you know, Erik ten Hag's just kind of given what he's given and get on with it. It should be a really good recruitment team doing the recruitment for Erik ten Hag and catering it for him. It should be a team effort at the end of the day, with the recruitment team doing the majority of the recruitment, but Ten Hag at least having some sort of a say on it and being able to decide certain factors. So that's the way I hope it goes, but we'll see. We'll see, because I know, you know, Dan Ashworth and Sir Jim and Dave Brailsford, they've all got connections and they've got a way in which they see Manchester United moving forward. I hope it also involves the manager having power, because that's how Pep and Klopp have been so successful. They've used the model that we're talking about here in terms of the recruitment team, but they've also allowed the manager a great deal of power, and they've allowed them a say into this, because, you know, Klopp and Pep are the type of characters where they wouldn't have it another way, because, you know, they're strong characters, and you want a strong character as your manager in Manchester United, and I see Erik ten Hag being that sort of character as well. Mid Lover says, what style is Ten Hag playing? Let me know, thanks. Tired of playing one good game and everyone jumping on Ten Hag. Just give us someone with a style so that we can enjoy watching. Well, you know, Erik ten Hag does have to develop that next season, but Ten Hag does have a style of play. He does have a style of play. It's just not been successful over the course of a season. It's not functioned well enough. The only times it's functioned is when we've had, you know, the players that he's needed available in order to play it available, and that's basically happened, what, a couple times this season. I know there was, you know, Martinez available for the cup final, but, you know, the cup final wasn't really Erik ten Hag's style of play either. It was, let's be honest, we did a job on City, what we needed to do. Like, the Wolves game is obviously the only really pinpoint game, Wolves away, where I can say that's where the style of play was flourishing, and we had a proper team there. You had Luke Shaw, you had Lisandro Martinez. So there is a style of play from Erik ten Hag. It's just not been successful this season. And this is what brings me on to another factor. It's like, it really, really, really grinds my gears when people say, injuries aren't an excuse for Ten Hag this season. He should have been doing better despite the injuries. And, 8th place finish, it's not good enough. It really isn't. And I do think Ten Hag has maybe put too much of an excuse on the injuries. But injuries absolutely are a valid excuse for Erik ten Hag this season. They absolutely are a valid excuse for Erik ten Hag this season. Coaches like Erik ten Hag, they have a specific way they want to play. They're stubborn with it, and that specific way they want to play requires specific profiles of players. And once you get them, they have an extremely high ceiling. Of course, there's managers that could come into Manchester United and, make do with what they've got and get results out of it. Thomas Frank, he could probably do that, play counter-attacking football with the squad we've got. Sean Dyche is another one. Managers that could probably get the best out of what we've got. But coaches like Erik ten Hag that are very stubborn with their philosophy and the way they want to play, they need specific profiles. And once you've got them that specific profiles, the ceiling is much, much higher. I mean, go and give Pep Guardiola Brentford's squad and tell him to play the way he's playing at City. He won't be able to do it. Managers have specific profiles that they need, and Erik ten Hag this season, you're asking for this amazing style of play that he wants to play with his main centre-back missing, Lisandro Martinez, the whole season. That's like Van Dijk being away for Liverpool. That's like Saliba being away for Arsenal. People don't understand that. Plus, you've really not got much depth past centre-back past that, because we've had injuries after injuries to other players as well. No left-back, an ageing Casemiro, a 20-year-old striker that's adapting to the league in his second proper season, really, in elite-level football. He only played half a season for Atalanta last season, and now he's leading the line for Manchester United, playing minute after minute in Rasmus, with no backup to help him. And, your star player from last season, Marcus Rashford, isn't firing either. And you've got all these other issues off the pitch. You've lost Sancho because of disciplinary reasons. There's other things going on too. So injuries for me absolutely are a valid excuse. And yes, I understand there's players that Ten Hag should have got more out of in terms of he should have played them more. There's no excuses for the fact he didn't play Ahmad more. There's no excuses for the fact he didn't play Amrabat more. I do think they're mistakes that Ten Hag made. But the squad depth is very, very thin. Very, very thin. And to expect a flourishing style of play with what he had available you're in absolute cuckoo land. It's like trying to make water from wine. It's really, really tough. Really, really tough. But anyway, thank you everyone for getting your chats in. Got a couple super chats in that I want to read. So Olamide says Erik ten Hag doesn't negotiate the transfer deals. Again, that's a really good point. He didn't pay. He wasn't the one who said, well, he did want Anthony. He wasn't the one who paid the 80 million. We should have got Anthony when he was 40. But realistically, we should never have got Anthony in the first place. He's not worth 40 either, to be honest. And he's not really improved our squad. Let's be real about it. I'm a Ten Hag fan. But that shouldn't have happened. I hope he does well. I hope he kicks on next season. I want every player to do well. I want every player to be successful. I think there has been mitigating circumstances off the pitch that has impacted him. But realistically, that no matter how much money that was, it was never a good signing. Casemiro, yeah, okay. Ten Hag didn't set the 70 million fee, but we never should have gone for that, I don't think, despite how good he was in his first year. Looking back on it, and hindsight's 2020, isn't it? We shouldn't have gone for that profile when he wanted a De Jong, and Casemiro was just complete opposite of that. Dave Garden says, yes, Ten Hag players, but not his fault on the price. Yeah, I get that. I do get that. Glennie says, everyone goes on about styles of play, but a style of play still needs tactical flexibility, like Sir Alex changed for his games against Arsenal. Exactly. So what you would want next season from Ten Hag is you'd want to see him with a fully fit squad, and apparently the medical department are confident that they can provide that next season, and Sir Jim wants to thoroughly invest in that to make sure that the medical department is functioning properly next season. So hopefully we'll have a fully fit squad, and with a fully fit squad there becomes no excuses in terms of injuries, and you want to see Ten Hag's style of play being successful. But, you know, we're still early on in the project. Games against City, you know, games against Arsenal, you're still going to see tactical changes. And, you know, there's nothing embarrassing about doing that, by the way, because top teams do it all the time. And, you know, you've got to be able to win games as well. You've got to be able to create that balance. You know, Real Madrid came to the Etihad and they sat back most of the game. Real Madrid are in a Champions League final, probably going to win it again, and one of the best teams in the world. And they came to the Etihad and sat back. Like, let's not forget that. So teams do these things. Like, you're not going to suddenly next season just see prime Ten Hag ball, like, going toe-to-toe with City. Like, you are going to have to kind of wait for these things to develop, and certain games you are going to have to make tactical changes, exactly like what Glennie said. So I think that's a really good point as well. Going to be getting on to the transfer targets as well in a second, but get your comments in. Get your comments in on Branthwaite, by the way. I'll be interested to see what you have to say on that. Kind of just looking towards... Okay, yeah, so I'll just read a little bit more out of this article out because it is the current news and I want to fill you guys in on it. So the INEOS Group are looking to overhaul the club's transfer strategy by appointing the best-in-class recruitment team who will wield the most power when it comes to deciding who to sign. We get that. One thing I would say is I still think the manager should have a massive, massive, massive input on who goes. Like, Ten Hag knows his squad, he knows what suits the way he wants to play. In terms of the current squad, Ten Hag should have a huge say, and or if we get a new manager, whoever the new manager is, on who leaves. I don't think the transfer team should be controlling who leaves, really. I get incomings, but outgoings, the manager should have a big say on that. The long-term plan is for Dan Ashworth and Jason Wilcox to take control of the club's recruitment plans going forward, but Matt Hargreaves will step into the role amid the ongoing pursuit for a new sporting director. Ashworth remains Manchester United's only choice for the role, but he remains on gardening leave at Newcastle and is not expected to be part of the club's recruitment this summer. Something we've been knowing about as well. Dan Ashworth, you know, he's the one that INEOS wants, but he's not going to be able to do much this summer in terms of Manchester United. We're not going to be able to get that in. It's a difficult situation with Newcastle. Matt Hargreaves and Jason Wilcox are going to kind of head that up in the summer as well with the help of Omar Barada when he comes in July. So a little bit frustrated we've not been able to get him in, but we've spoken about that. Like we said, you know, City have always stuck by... City get incomings for Pep all the time. You know, they go and scout. We've spoken about that. But they've stuck by Pep in terms of outgoings. Like, João Cancelo, when things happen behind the scenes, he was one of the best fullbacks in the world at the time. Off you go. They had no qualms backing Pep on that. You know, even Cole Palmer, who... I think it was a mistake letting him go because he's been unbelievable at Chelsea. You know, Pep, when someone says they want to go, he's like, all right. And the recruitment team, you know, facilitate that. They stick by him. So that's something. Incomings, massively respect the fact that they want a proper recruitment team in. I agree with it. Outgoings, the manager, for me, needs to have a big say because they're the ones working with the players day in and day out. Joe Tommy, I get that. He said Pep is a world-class manager, Ten Hag isn't. I understand that. Pep is, you know, a massively successful manager. But it doesn't change the fact, you know, the way that you treat your manager. And, you know, if Ten Hag's our manager, you know, you treat him with respect. You don't change that because, you know, he's not had the success of a Pep Guardiola. That doesn't mean you change that. You know, it's if that is your manager, that is your manager and you back him. That is what you do. Yeah, Pep's a more successful manager than Ten Hag. We understand that, but that doesn't mean that Ten Hag shouldn't be treated with respect. If he remains the Manchester United manager, he should get the backing of the club, in my opinion. A lot of people asking about this big list. I want to move on to that now and we can come back to the other stuff later. It's a big article and there's a lot to speak about. But on this big list, it's coming in that the Everton duo, Jared Branthwaite and Amadou Onana, are both being considered as for Manchester United, as well as Crystal Palace ace Michael Olise and Fulham defender Tosin. Mark Gahey and Max Kilman and Pedro Neto are also admired, while the club have a long-term interest in Brighton striker Evan Ferguson. So what do you make of that? Branthwaite, Onana, Olise, Tosin, Mark Gahey, Max Kilman, Pedro Neto and Evan Ferguson, all names that are being mentioned by Rich Fay in this article, and all names that have also been linked to Manchester United before. Obviously some have higher chances of others than happening, but I want to discuss them and I want to discuss the likelihood of them. Also, along with this, it is said that Manchester United are looking to become more savvy with their spending and are hoping to save money by targeting players who are already in the final year of their contract or are soon to become free agents. I mean, we did that last year with Mason Mount. For me, if that's the way we're going with it, and it looks like we're only going to sign one centre-back, Tosin is someone we should be all over. Physical, pacey, good on the ball, Premier League proven, which is apparently what they want. On a free transfer, which is again something that you're looking at. Newcastle are about to wrap up the Tosin signing. We need to get in there and hijack it. We do. If we're only able to sign one centre-back because of financial fair play and us needing a lot of positions and maybe not being able to sell as much as we thought we were going to be able to, we need to be all over Tosin. I don't get why Man United are not in that race, because we admire him, we like him. I'm not saying he's going to be a starter for Manchester United. He could be a squad player and work his way up, or but he's a good centre-back that ticks the boxes of what we need in terms of style of play as well. So Tosin should be someone we're all over. But in terms of Evan Ferguson, I want to get straight to the point. We can't afford him, but Manchester United absolutely love him. I was told 2 years ago about Evan Ferguson, and I won't go into the details of how I was told about that, because people always question you, my dad's sisters, brothers, uncles. But Man United have liked Evan Ferguson for a long time. They have. They absolutely have. I've spoken to Ben Jacobs and he said in an ideal world, Man United would buy both João Neves and Evan Ferguson. In terms of midfielder, João Neves is top of the list. In terms of striker, Evan Ferguson's up at the top of the list. They absolutely love them players. The issue is Brighton are probably going to ask for 100 million for Evan Ferguson, and Benfica are definitely going to ask for at least 100 million for João Neves. I think he's got a release clause of around 100 million in João Neves. So as much as we like Evan Ferguson, we can't afford to go for him. And this is where you've got to have your backup options, and this is where you've got to have a good recruitment team that are going to look at similar styles of players for cheaper. Evan Ferguson at Brighton looks like a promising talent, kind of has gone off the map a little bit this season, to be honest with you. I know he suffered with injury as well. But he's someone that is massively promising. He's young and he's got great attributes. People were touting him last year as the next Harry Kane. United are properly looking at him and really would like to buy him. And if he was feasible, I think they would buy him. But this is where the scouts of Manchester United and the recruitment team should be looking at players, in the South American League, across Europe, who don't have that Premier League tax, don't have the tax that Brighton are going to put on, don't have the, I know he's Irish, but, he is someone that is going to require a lot of money to go and get him out of Brighton. So we should be looking at players with similar attributes, similar age profile that we can go and get for a cheaper price. But I would say massively keep your eye on Evan Ferguson. I would. But I just don't think with the price of Brighton we would be able to do it. But he definitely is wanted by United, 100%. But is that the right route to go down? Massively promising, got a huge future ahead of him. Rasmus is our young striker though. I again feel like we should be going for someone with experience to take that burden off Rasmus, personally, in terms of someone who can give Rasmus that experience, help him out in the training sessions, and who Rasmus can also learn from a little bit as well. Get in your comments what you think about that. Like I said at the start of the show, Jarrad Branthwaite, someone that Man United absolutely love, and I think we're definitely going to try with Everton. Everton have to sell before the end of June. TalkSport put something out saying that United could get Jarrad Branthwaite out of Everton for 40 million because of their financial issues. Do not see that whatsoever. I think Sky was reporting between like 55 and 65 million. I think you're looking towards the top end of 65, 70 million, to be honest with you. I know Everton have financial issues, but just the way the market is, and if anyone comes in the race. But like I said, if we can only afford one centre-back, why are we going for I've been beating the Branthwaite drum. I would be happy if we signed him. I think he's a good player. But why are we prioritising a left-sided centre-back when Varane, who's just gone, is a right-sided centre-back who's right-footed? Lisandro Martinez is our best centre-back who, under Ten Hag, you would imagine he's going to be our left-sided starting centre-back for, you know, the next years coming forward. I think he's 24, 25 years old. People saying he's captain material. He was absolutely phenomenal in that cup final against Erling Haaland, and I just think he's a top player. I really like Lisandro Martinez, and he's respected by a lot of opposition fans as well, and that's how you know he's someone that's worth building around. Got the right attitude, talent. Is Erik ten Hag's big money signing in terms of a centre-back, left-footed. So why would we go for Jarrad Branthwaite, who is also predominantly left-footed and predominantly left-sided? I know he can play on the right side and he's good on both feet, but surely you just go for an out-and-out right-sided centre-back to play with Martinez. And people will talk about the injuries that Martinez has had. I get that. But then we should be going for two centre-backs. The reason why I've wanted Branthwaite is because, one, he gives you squad depth because he can play both sides. Two, I think at 21 years old, he's a massive, massive talent. And I do think he comes in, I do think he starts games as well, by the way. But, you know, you're going to have to rotate, especially with Martinez's injuries and stuff like that. But the reason why I wanted Branthwaite is because I was under the impression that United were going to get two centre-backs, a right-sided centre-back and a left-sided centre-back. And I was under the impression our squad depth next season would be Martinez and Branthwaite for left side, you know, Todibo and Maguire for the right side, because I do think Maguire will stay. Lindelof gets sold. You keep Evans around as experience and someone who can step in. You have Kumbuala, who's coming up from the youth, might even go on loan, I'm not sure yet, but someone who's coming up from the youth who can build and develop. That's how I pictured it going. But now it's seeming more and more like we're just going to buy one centre-back. I struggle to get why you would go for someone who's predominantly left-sided on that. I would prioritise the right-sided centre-back, personally, if we were going to only go for one centre-back. Tosin is someone that we could look at on a free transfer. People are laughing at Maguire. Maguire is probably going to stay at Manchester United, and to be honest with you, he's done pretty well this season. I don't mind him staying as a squad player. If we can get money for him, I'd absolutely cash in. If there's a club offering 25, 30 million for Maguire, I'd take the money. I would absolutely take the money, but if he does stay as long as it's squad depth, I'm not too fussed. I think I'd prefer to sell Lindelof, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think Lindelof, if we're going to sell any centre-back, is the one that I would be looking to move on. But, yeah, get in the comments what you think. A lot of people say Branthwaite obviously can play on his right foot. He's good on both, but he's predominantly left-footed and he's predominantly left-sided. That's what I'm saying. If you were going to go for a right-sided centre-back, you'd go for someone who is, like, their expertise, their field is being a right-sided centre-back, is what I was basically trying to say. Also, Mark Gahey, Mark's spoken about that. He's definitely an option. Definitely an option that Manchester United have been looking at for a while. Someone to keep an eye on. I don't think he's the top of our list. But like I said, if you can't get your first choices, Manchester United might end up going down the route of Mark Gahey. Ticks the box of Premier League proven, British as well, which we know Dan Ashworth absolutely loves. And so INEOS absolutely loves, so keep an eye on that. Max Kilman. Are you getting the thing now? Are you getting the kind of pattern here? Branthwaite, English. Mark Gahey, English. Max Kilman, British. Like, you know, that's what you're getting here with these centre backs. And Kilman, again, I don't think he's a priority for us, but I think he's someone that's definitely on the list. Pedro Neto, we know that the club were looking at both Pedro Neto and both Michael Olise. Michael Olise is our top option for the right wing. You know, we're scouting a number of players for each position. Olise's there. I reckon Pedro Neto's here. And to be honest with you, I think we will end up getting Olise. One thing to point out, people talk about Olise's injury record. You don't even want to look at Pedro Neto's injury record. I think Pedro Neto, by the way, is so talented. He's got so much potential. He's so exciting. I remember when Arsenal linked to him a couple of seasons ago and I thought, wow, you know, that would be a great signing for them. But Pedro Neto, it's like Anthony Martial. He cannot stay fit. He is made of glass. The last thing we need is to sign someone for, what, 70, 80 million in Pedro Neto. That's just going to spend the whole season with Gary Driscoll, you know, in the injury room. in the medical room. That's the last thing we need. So for me, as much as I think Pedro Neto is a good footballer, I would absolutely avoid. We've got enough injury-prone players. We've had enough injuries to deal with. You know, Elise worries me slightly in terms of injuries, I'm going to be honest, but I think in terms of the injuries he's had, he has been a little bit unlucky. I know he was rushed back under Roy Hodgson, and that was a whole talking point, a whole debacle. But what I would say is once you have a hamstring injury as a footballer, it does tend to be recurring. But Michael Elise does seem like the player we're going to go for. And unlike Pedro Neto, he actually has a release clause, so you can get him for a decent price, which would be around 60 million. So Elise, I think, is practically nailed on, so there's not really much point talking about Pedro Neto, to be honest. And then in terms of centre-back, it's going to be very interesting. Very, very, very interesting who we go for on that. So, yeah, get in the chat what you guys think on that. And, you know, as well, Tosin, also English. You know, you've got Mark Gahey, who's English. You've got Kilman, who's English. You've got Branthwaite, who's English, Tosin, who's English. We clearly want to go down that English route. And to add on to that, this is what was said in the article. I know we've spoken about it, but as part of the new transfer strategy, there is a desire to target homegrown talent with a preference for those who have already played in the Premier League, as well as those that are British. It is understood players who have 1 or 2 years of Premier League experience are seen as ideal. Like I said, Premier League experience, I get it. You know, Mikel Arteta's recruited Havertz. Everyone thought that was going to flop. He's actually done pretty well. Ben White, Declan Rice, you know, he's shot in the Premier League. Zinchenko, I know he's not English, but Premier League. Jesus, it worked for the first season. Now they definitely do need an upgrade, but it worked first from the Premier League. Arteta absolutely loves the Premier League purchase, and it's worked for them. Premier League experience, I understand it. British, I don't mind as long as they're good. English, you know, French, Italian, I don't mind as long as they're good at football. That's what I'm bothered about. But yeah, get in the comments down below what you think on that. And David Moore says, don't think we will buy any player that costs more than 50 million. I disagree. If we're looking at Branthwaite, we will. Just depends where Manchester United choose to draw the line at that price. Mark Gahey apparently is going to cost you around 60 if Man United decide to do that. Michael Elise's release clause is 60 million, and we're definitely looking to do that. He's someone that Man United could be one of the first signings. So I disagree with you. We are going to buy players over 60 million. It's just how many, to be honest, because I heard Mark on the morning show, by the way, and he was saying the priority positions, a striker, centre, defensive midfielder and a centre-back. And I was sat there watching it on my way to the gym, and I thought, I was screaming. I was like, left back, left back, left back. We can't walk away out of this summer without recruiting a left-back. Luke Shaw, physically, because of his injury, isn't able to play the amount of games we require in a season, as good as he is. Ten Hag said that in an interview, came straight from the horse's mouth. Like, Luke Shaw's not going to be available to play the games that you need. Malacia hasn't even trained yet. We absolutely, left-back should be top of the list. Left-back we have to go and buy. I agree. Centre-back we have to go and buy. I'd argue we need 2. Centre defensive midfielder, we have to replace Casemiro, and it looks like he's going to leave. And I think after everything that happened around the FA Cup final, it was super fishy. I think there's been a falling out, to be honest with you. I think he's going to go. Striker, we have to get someone to help Rasmus out. We have to. And then also, it pretty much seems nailed on. We're getting Elise. Like, you're looking at six there already. And then you have people talking about Frimpong as well, which I don't think should happen or is going to happen. But there's a lot of players that United need to go and get. We have to sell them. We have to, you know, we have to cut the cloth accordingly. So I understand people saying, you know, I don't think we're going to spend this much on each player, but United are looking at players that are worth a decent amount of money, and there's areas where we are going to have to cut corners. Todibo could be one for a centre-back. 40 million is going to cost you. Romano's already said it. That's relatively cheap in terms of the type of player you're getting and the quality of player you're getting. Left back, apparently we're not going to spend more than 20 million on it. I'll be interested to see who we go for. There's been murmurs of names, but nothing really coming out. I've got Ben Jacobs on the show, by the way, tomorrow. I'm so excited to speak to him because he has loads of insight and I can't wait to get him on the show. You know, striker, if you're looking to get a decent striker, it's going to cost you around 50, 60 million. So I honestly have no idea how Manchester United are going to pay for the transfer window we're all anticipating. We have to sell. We have to. Greenwood, Sancho, but we have to sell past that. And if we're looking at an English centre-back, which we clearly are, Branthwaite, Tosin, Mark Gahey, Kilman, all being listed, then maybe Maguire is going to get sold. And, you know, an English player goes out, an English player to come in to fit the quota. So maybe we are going to cash in on Maguire for 30 million. It's something to think about, but it'll be interesting. Last little bit that I wanted to speak about on the show. United are also looking to save millions by signing highly rated teenagers from their domestic rivals who they feel like could develop into first-team players. I think that's a good route to go down. We've been building Carrington and the youth set up for quite a while now. To be honest, John Murto, that is one thing he actually did do really well. As poor as he was in terms of the first team, in terms of the youth, he did a really good job, and I think the whole academy are doing quite a good job at getting talents in. You know, Harry Armas was a really good find, Alejandro Garnacho, I could go on and on and on. In terms of getting the talent into Carrington, Carrington is absolutely thriving right now, so I think we have to keep doing that, and not only from the English leagues, I think, you know, across the South American League and, you know, across the European leagues as well. It's something we absolutely have to invest in. And then, this is one point I wanted to bring in at the end of the show, and it is during internal conversations, Manchester United technical director Jason Wilcox has appointed the high number of minutes, he's not appointed a high number of minutes. During internal conversations, Manchester United technical director Jason Wilcox has pointed to the high number of minutes that the young members of the Manchester United squad have played this season. So he's pointed out that, hang on a second, Rasmus is playing a lot of minutes, Garnacho's playing tons of minutes, Kobbie Mainoo as well has been thrown in the deep end and he's playing tons of minutes. He's pointed that out and thought that's something we need to address, because as good as Kobbie Mainoo is, and do not get me wrong, Kobbie Mainoo is I feel like he's generational. I think he's the most exciting talent we've had at the club for years. Garnacho as well, you know, he's playing so many minutes. I think it was like 37, 38 consecutive starts for Manchester United. Højlund was playing a lot of minutes as well, started to obviously get a little bit of break towards the end of the season, was coming off the bench and actually was doing really well. I thought in the cup final his hold-up play was excellent to get us through the end of the game. You know, games before that he was scoring as well, decent goals that he's kind of making for himself as well, and Bruno Fernandes assisted him as well on one or two. So Højlund was doing well in there. He got a little bit of a break, but Jason Wilcox has pointed out, you know, the young players are being very heavily relied upon and are being asked to play a lot of minutes. First of all, when you're developing younger players, you want to ease them in. You want to give them the best opportunity possible to build confidence and build experience. You know, bringing Rasmus off the bench the last couple of games, the amount of confidence that would have built for him. You know, he scored a couple of goals and he's had a really good stint in a cup final towards the end of the game. That would have built him a lot of confidence and a lot of experience as well. You know, Garnacho, he's playing every minute God sends, and, you know, there has been ups and downs in his performances towards the end of the season. He was excellent in the cup final, but the last 5 or 6 games before that, let's be honest, he didn't play very well because he's fatigued. And to get the best out of Garnacho and to build his confidence, you want him fresh. And Kobbie Mainoo as well, he's just absolutely different gravy. He's insane, but you still want to protect him and you want to make sure, you know, he doesn't get injured and that you are developing him properly. So the younger players, they need to be protected. They need to be developed in the right way. I agree, you know, it's massive for them that they're gaining this experience by playing a lot of minutes. And I do still want them to play a lot of minutes in United shirt. But we also need to be able to have more experienced players there to rely upon, so these players can get a break, so these players are allowed to be integrated in and gain experience in terms of, you know, sometimes they can have some minutes off the bench to gain that experience against, you know, tired legs and gain that confidence and playing different elements of the game. So for me, I'm glad that that has been looked upon, and I'm hoping that the club addresses this by signing players, you know, in them positions that can help give them players a little bit of a break. For example, you sign Michael Olise, you've got another player competing there for the wing spots. You know, at the moment, you know, Garnacho's done incredibly well on the right wing. He's also played left wing as well. But if you sign Michael Olise, you're in a world where you've got Rashford and Garnacho competing for the left wing, you know, Olise and Ahmad and Anthony competing for the right wing. That gives a lot more depth, and Garnacho isn't heavily as relied upon. Garnacho can play right wing as well, to be honest. He can play both wings. Some would say he's been better on the right wing this season. So it gives Garnacho that healthy competition and also allows him to be rotated so he can rest up and you can see the best version of him. you sign another striker, a more experienced striker. For example, you sign an Ivan Toney. That takes the pressure off Rasmus. He's allowed to be able to come off the bench and get goals from the bench, build his confidence up. He's allowed to, play one game from the start and have his minutes there. But the next game, if we're playing in the Europa League or, we've got multiple games in a week, Toney plays and, you can learn off Toney, see what he's doing and it gives him that break and keeps him fresh. Kobbie Mainoo, I think, is someone that, honestly, is so important to our team that you don't want to be giving him that much rest because he's absolutely vital. And I do think he is just absolutely insane in terms of his ability. But you still want to have options there. You still need to be able to give him a break. You can't play 90 minutes, 2 games a week across a whole season. You've got to be able to give him some sort of break. So, you go and sign a hybrid 6/8, a really top class one. You can afford to do that, especially if Mason Mount stays fit as well. He can come into the midfield. So that's what I'm talking about. And I'm not saying it has to be them players that I've mentioned, as in Elise and as in, Ivan Toney. I do think they are very big possibilities for United this summer, especially Michael Elise. But, signing players in the positions of the youngsters that are being so heavily relied upon will help us next season, not only in terms of lifting the depth of the squad, but in actually developing the youth and the talent that we have that is so, so promising and exciting and that are going to be with us for years to come because the potential is massive. The potential is absolutely massive. Super chat in from United 1 saying, will Erik ten Hag stick to the team setup he used in the last few games that got him the results and build from that, or revert back to the losing formation? I don't think Ten Hag will stick with a false 9, no. But it is very interesting how much the Bruno Fernandes at false 9 did work in terms of getting the best out of Bruno as well. Because, as good as Bruno is, when he's playing in the midfield, he does like to wander, he does vacate his position, and that can leave the other midfielders exposed and it can leave gaps. You have a situation where he's playing as a false 9, he can still wander, he can still roam, he can still go and press, which he was excellent at in them games, but you've still got 3 midfielders sticking to the positions behind him, which again makes the midfield harder to get through. So it's going to be interesting to see the way Ten Hag goes about it, but I don't think he's not going to stick with Bruno at false 9. Bruno will go back into midfield and he'll build from there, and I think it'll be a lot easier for Erik ten Hag to make that formation work with the right players and with the right recruitment this summer. If Erik ten Hag does stay. We still have no decision on INEOS, remember that. I mean, I feel like the longer it goes on, the more beneficial it is for Erik ten Hag and the more likely it looks like Ten Hag is going to stay, but it's still not nailed on that. We're speaking as if Ten Hag is staying, but we still have no idea and it could honestly go either way. I was speaking to someone this morning who said that they still think it's 60-40, 60 for Ten Hag to go, 40 for him to stay. So honestly, I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't think many people actually know what's going to happen either. Ryan Shite said, Ryan Shite? Sorry. I've probably butchered your name there, but thank you for your super chat anyway. I think it's the years of sluggishness and training standards that turned into the injury list. I agree. We need to be purchasing physically robust players, and Ten Hag said that in his interview as well. Glennie says, everyone goes on about styles of play. I've done that one. Thank you, Glennie. And yeah, I think I've got all the super chats in there, but thank you everyone for your comments, everything like that. And we've got a chat in from the normal chat from JF saying, we're looking to buy a young striker in Xerxes. What profile of striker would you sign? A younger or an older striker? I've already said I think we should sign a more experienced striker personally. Absolutely, to complement the youth of Rasmus. Why would you buy 2 of the same profiles? You want a little bit of diversity in there. And I think it would help Rasmus as well. And Hamza says, still can't see Erik ten Hag staying. Shaw's tweet. Has Luke Shaw tweeted? Hans Sanity says, what about the left-back situation? I'm going to try and get more clarity on that from Ben Jacobs tomorrow. We're definitely going for a left-back. We've had no clues on who we are going for, which makes me think United also have no clue on who they're going to go for, which again worries me because, the transfer window's around the corner. Left-back's a big priority. We know we're going to sign one. We need to be getting our targets in order. We really need to be. Has Shaw just tweeted because someone's... No, he's not tweeted, so someone's having me on in the chat. But look, everyone, I'm going to wrap the show up there because it's an afternoon show. I did say I was going to do a quick afternoon show before the show, but 50 minutes later and we're still here. Someone just mentioned Edison at Atalanta. I would love to buy Ederson from Atalanta. From what I've seen of him in the Atalanta games this season, which is predominantly been in the Europa League, granted, he's looked phenomenal. And I think there's rumours you could get him out of there for around 40 million euros. So he would be someone that would be a good signing. And in terms of, you know, cutting the cost, cutting corners, for a midfielder to come in, 40 million euros, which is around 35 million pounds, is absolutely brilliant in today's market for someone of his quality. So that's something that Man United should be exploring. And I know he is somebody that is on our list. So keep an eye on that. Fofana from Monaco is someone also to look at. But yeah, everyone, we could go through targets all day. I'm excited for the transfer targets to start heating up, and once the manager situation is resolved, I'm sure the transfer stuff will get hotter and hotter, and we'll get to speak about that more. So hopefully we get an answer on Ten Hag soon. It's like, honestly, it's like when you've gone for a job interview and you're sitting around waiting for the email. You know, have I got the job? Have I not? You know, you're on edge. The suspense is there. INEOS are taking their time, and I don't think it'll be this week, but hopefully it'll be soon. But look, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate it. Had over 5,000 there for an afternoon show, which is absolutely banging. So thank you very much for all of you for staying with me, getting a like on the video as well, getting your comments in the chat. Let me know in the comments who your preferred targets would be, who you would bring in for Manchester United, who you would go and get if you were part of this recruitment team. How are you feeling about it? What are your thoughts on INEOS at the moment? What decision they're going to make on Ten Hag? Get your comments down below and I will read through them. But that is it for now. There'll be more on the 8 PM show or any breaking news if it does come out. Thanks for watching, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you on the next one.